Welcome to the Activity Call Live. Now let's hear it for our special guest host, Adam Katz.
Woo! Hello, Alliance Nation. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andy and Jane Albright, for trusting us, our team, with the activity call today. We don't take that lightly. Always appreciative of being able to talk to Andy's organization. And just thank you, Andy and Jane Albright, for the life that we live. For where we are today, and even better, where we're still going, because we haven't arrived. We're just beginning. I feel like it's a brand new day, and we got so much good things happening, so much momentum. I've been doing a lot of traveling, lately, and just meeting sharp people every day, talking to sharp people. People are out there hungry. People are looking for opportunity. There are people who want to work. They want to have a future. They want to change their life. They want to change their financial direction. They want to change their financial legacy. They want to create generational legacy, generational wealth for their children and their grandchildren. And we have that opportunity fighting this war on poverty that Andy's mission is. And, it's so cool talking to these people and going and seeing people and just looking in their eye and knowing we can make a difference. It's one thing meeting somebody that wants to do something different, but if you have nothing to offer them, you just kind of feel bad for them. But knowing that, hey, we have a proven track record. We have a real deal business opportunity for somebody that's willing to do the work, willing to lock in, willing to buy in, and just willing to do whatever is necessary to be successful in their financial life, in their spiritual life, in their personal life, in relationships, all of those things. All of those things are better for me and for Beth and for our kids because of the influences that of living in this Alliance culture and the people that Andy brings in and surrounds us with. It's just crazy that we have those opportunities to meet people that I never would have had an opportunity to meet before. People like John Maxwell, Brian Tracy, Bill Cower, all the people like that has just impacted our lives. And like I said, just the beginning, Mark Aceta. Oh my goodness, what a difference he has made over the last year in our business, in our lives, in our future. We're just blessed that Andy has the vision and the foresight to bring people in that can do those things for us. So what we're going to do today, guys, is this. Some people are here to inspire. Others are here to give hope. I think we're going to be in the give hope category of where we are in life and where we started in life. So many people. What I love about the Alliance, to me, this is. I've always said this about our company. This is a business of second chances. This is a business for the people who are still fighting the fight, who haven't given up on their dreams, haven't given up on life. Maybe they're not in life where they want to be. Maybe opportunities have passed them by. Maybe they just find themselves behind the 8 ball financially and in life. And this business is the second chance that they're looking for. And so what we wanted to do today is just kind of talk about where we came from. I hope you can relate to our story. I think you'll be able to, and then then the victory. Not that we've arrived, not that we're at the end of the game, but we believe this: we're winning at the game of life. We haven't won the game of life, but we're winning at the game of life. And I don't know that I could say that back in the day. So our background, Beth and I were both school teachers, and Beth, feel free to jump in any point where you want to set the record straight. She has a much better memory than I do, or at least she's more confident in her memory. So I think that's half the battle. But coming out of college, so Beth and I, we were both scholarship kids. We met in high school, started dating our senior year, and living in Wilmington, North Carolina, we qualified for something that was called the North Carolina Teaching Fellows, and it was the first class of teaching fellows. We were the best and the brightest. We were the most anticipated group to arrive on campus since the Beatles. These are things that they actually said to us. And you know, it was a cool scholarship. It paid for 4 years of college with the requirement that you teach for 4 years in the public schools. So this was their effort to get more teachers into the school systems. If you chose not to teach, then you'd have to pay it back. It turned from a scholarship to a loan. So Beth and I knew we were both going to teach for 4 years because we had no intention of having to repay that money. And so we go through the 4 years of school, and it's kind of crazy. I remember our junior year, we had some kind of conference or something, job fair at UNC Greensboro where we were in school. Go Spartans, alma mater of Jane Albright. Thank you very much. And there were superintendents from all the counties in North Carolina, and they were just throwing their business cards at us. And they're like, we want as many teaching fellows, you know, especially out of this first class that we can get in our school system. You give me a call when you graduate, we'll get you, you know, we got you. And we had some neat programs through the 4 years of going through college. One summer we had to do a week-long internship kind of thing, you know, where we lived in a school system, county office for a week. And we just fell in love with the assistant superintendent who was in charge of us. And then he became superintendent at the end of the week, which was cool. We were there for the announcement and you know, the press conference, and we just fell in love with him. You know, Mike Ward was his name, Granville County, North Carolina, which is not a huge county. It's, you know, but that's where we wanted to teach. And he wanted us, and we wanted to be there. We loved the culture and everything about it. And then we graduated in 1991, and many of you guys are too young to remember anything about the economy of 1991, but it was not good. It was not a good economy, and basically all school systems were in a hiring freeze. And so we went from being the best and the brightest, the most marketable group of teachers to ever graduate, to ain't no jobs anywhere. And it became, you know, reality hit us in the face very quickly. So Beth and I, we graduated in May of 91. We got married in June of 91. We put our honeymoon on a credit card, American Express, never leave home without it. And so we were already in debt day one, and we didn't have jobs. You know, this was not the underpinnings of a strong financial future. And so we start applying for jobs, and we start interviewing for jobs, and we're going around the place. And I know this is a little bit of a long story, but there's a huge point to this, which I'm going to get to. And so we went to Granville County, and we sat in Mike's living room, and the three of us in tears because he couldn't find a job for me. Beth, he had a job for Beth. Beth was a Latin major. That made her very marketable. She was Latin and English. I was a history major, which was about as dime a dozen as you can get. And so there was just nothing for me out there. Beth was offered job after job, but nobody had anything for me. Might have been me. Might have been the way I was interviewed. I don't think I was the strongest interview at the time. And so we just kept interviewing. You know, Mike couldn't find something for us. He was a superintendent, and he couldn't get me a job. That's how tight the job market was. So I remember we interviewed in Cumberland County, which is Fayetteville, North Carolina, and they offered Beth a job, and they offered me a position in charge of in-school suspension. Dan, I might have had kids like and the problem was, though, because that wasn't considered a teaching position, it wouldn't have counted as a year of service against my scholarship. And I needed to start paying back my scholarship with service. And so we turned that down, and we were like, I don't know what we're going to do. And then we get a call out of the blue from Harnett County Schools. Okay, now this is how badly we wanted to teach in Harnett County Schools. We didn't apply there. We applied to every county around Harnett County, but we didn't apply to Harnett County. But we get a call from them, from the personnel director. They had called Cumberland County and said, we need a Latin teacher bad. Do you know of anyone? And Cumberland County said, well, we interviewed a good one, but it's a package deal. You got to find something for the husband. So I go from this best and the brightest, most marketable teaching class in the history of teachers to now I'm kind of like I'm the throw-in on the Latin teacher package. And they actually took a teacher out of his classroom so that I could have his classroom. I didn't know this at the time, but they actually created a position for us. And they met Beth. They offered her the job. They said, give us 24 hours. We'll find something for your husband. Now, I was standing right there. They didn't even use my name. They said, we'll find something for your husband. And the next day they call us back. We drive down to Harnett County. During my interview, I found this out later also, they actually called my principal back. He had oral dental surgery earlier that day. So he was just in a peach of a mood. And halfway through the interview, the personnel director is walking down with contracts for us to sign. And so we signed the contracts. We drive back to our apartment in Greensboro. And on our answering machine, this was before cell phones, people, on our answering machine was a voicemail from Mike Ward from Granville County saying he had a position for us. We had literally just signed contracts 2 hours ago. And we looked at each other and we were like, we probably can get out of the contracts. I mean, the ink's not even dry yet. And then we said, no, we signed the contracts. We're going to honor our word. And I tell you that whole story because it gives me goosebumps to think about what if we didn't end up in Harnett County? What a thin thread we're all on. I believe God's in charge. You believe what you want to believe. I'm not pushing my faith on anybody. But you talk about a God thing putting us in Harnett County, because at the school, at Lillington Middle School, where I taught my first year, there was an 8th grade science teacher named Jane Albright. And we would have never met Andy and Jane Albright if we went back on our word, if we canceled that contract and we went to Granville County. And what would our lives look like today? That one little decision. Beth, you wanna comment on that story? Fill in any pieces I might have missed.
Besides the fact that you got me teary-eyed already. The gratitude for how we have ended up in places that we didn't necessarily envision us going. We had an idea that we wanted our lives to add impact, but if you had us map out every step along the way, our Alliance story, our education story, none of that would have played out. And so that the whole thing that God's in charge, that if you will go where you need to go and do what you need to do, God will honor that. I was just thinking, Adam, oh gosh. I like I don't know this story. I lived it. I liked English, and my dad, who was an educator his whole life, said English teachers are a dime a dozen. You need to add something else. You need to do something different. Now, he pushed me to science. I ain't got nothing to do with science and math. That was not me. But I was like, all right, I can handle Latin. And the fact that like, just listening to that advice, listening to someone in life who will push you in a direction that you need to go, but you aren't necessarily willing to go. Well, that's what Andy and Jane Albright have done for us for 30 years. Sometimes we kick and scream, and sometimes we're more compliant, and sometimes we're way too slow to act. But if you will, it's that humbling yourself and realizing that there's somebody else who has an insight beyond what you've got. I don't think that's really what you really mean to say, but... that was just on my heart. So had we not ended up in Harnett County, we would, at this point, we would be 30 years through teaching. We'd be able to retire on less than we were making, which was nothing to begin with. And I think, school system does in North Carolina does have pretty good retirements. My parents are both retired educators. They are right now on a 20-day trip around the British Isles. But I didn't grow up like that. I grew up with a couple of big vacation trips. Most of our vacations were at the beach. My parents have just in the past year flown first class for the first time in their life. They're 80 years old. And then I think that our kids have grown up with the example of Adam traveling. And so our daughter Sarah is not afraid to travel. She's earned status on an airline. And so our 6-month-old grandson has flown first class more often than my parents, who are 80 years old. Like, it's just a different way of viewing life, because we put ourselves in some uncomfortable positions and we're willing to be mentored by Andy and Jane Albright.
Awesome. So let's paint the picture. So we end up in Harnett County, and we end up buying a townhouse because there's no rental property in town in Harnett County. It's not like we were in a position to buy a house, or we've been married 3 months.
We could have rented a trailer, but you weren't getting me in a trailer.
Against tornadoes, so we buy this townhouse, which, by the way, is just a trailer turned upside down, turned on its head. But anyway, he was happy with it, but we hadn't even gotten a paycheck yet, and we put ourselves in deeper debt. And we committed ourselves to this 30-year mortgage. And our game plan was this. We knew we had to teach for 4 years. We both had to teach for the 4 years. So we were going to bank Beth's salary for those 4 years, and we were going to live off of mine. And then after 4 years, we'd have all of her salary saved up, $80,000 to $100,000 in the bank. And we can start our family. And then Beth would have the choice of being a full-time stay-at-home mom, which is what she really wanted to do in the first place. We get 3 months into it, and we're like, this ain't gonna work. We're not saving any money. We're spending both salaries, and we're getting deeper into debt. And it's not like we were doing extravagant things. We weren't buying Louis Vuittons or any got a free kitten. That we did do that, and got a dog from the pound. But I mean, we just didn't have any money, and it wasn't working. And so we became very open-minded very quickly. And then we got a call. I was a name on a list. So the English teacher in the 8th grade, her son had gotten into Andy and Jane's Amway business, and so they recruited Michael, and then me up one day. I didn't know Andy from anybody. Do you keep your options open? And I was like, yes, definitely keep our options open. What do you got? Later that same day, we met with another guy, a realtor, also called us up asking us if we were keeping our options open. Turns out the same company. And we go to this meeting. Andy invites us to a meeting similar to a hotspot that we do today around the country, and didn't understand what we were doing. Didn't know anything about the company, didn't understand any of it, but it was a shot. And, like Andy, knew Jane from school, didn't really know her, but kind of knew her. It was my first year of teaching. I was just trying to keep my head above water. And we go to this meeting, and again, this is another God thing. Had the opportunity, because we met two different people doing business, same business, we had to choose who we were going to go in business with. And I remember even saying this to Beth. I said, because I didn't know Andy, I knew Anne Marie. She's been like a 25-year school teacher, not a business person. And Andy I had just met for like 10 minutes. So I didn't have a feel for any of that. And then the other guy was a realtor. sharp businessman. And I remember saying to Beth, I said, I think we'd make more money with Boyd if we went with him, but I feel obligated to go with Anne Marie because of the relationship. And I think if we had gone with Boyd, we probably would have lasted 90 days and then quit and had no connection to anything again. But because we made that decision to go with Anne Marie, we made that decision to get into business with Andy and Jane Albright without really even knowing that's the decision we were making. And again, what a difference that made. So these little decisions, guys, here's the point. These little decisions that you're making in your business will have huge ramifications down the road. Like the decision to go to Miami or not to go to Miami. By the way, ticket price, at the $249 discount price, unbelievable bargain, is good through the end of May 31st. After May 31st, the price is going to go up. So go ahead and get locked in and make sure you do that. You can get your tickets at theallianceevents.com. And go ahead and get locked into that. But I was talking to this guy yesterday. I was doing a meeting, and he's like, "Oh, I can't go to Miami." I was like, "Dude, it's 2 months away. How are you saying you can't go right now?" "Well, I don't have the money." I said, "You got 2 months to make the money. What little decision are you making today that has huge ramifications for your business? How about we go ahead and get your license, get you working, and we make enough money that you can go to Miami with us, change your life." And so we made those. Beth and I always made those decisions. We prioritized the association. We prioritized going to conventions. Here's what we prioritize. We prioritize being where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. I have done a lot of things wrong in business. We're not anywhere close to where I want to be, where I thought we'd be. But one of my biggest business goals was this. I wanted to be, Mark Cassetta talked about the 4 categories, and one of them is low maintenance, high volume. I wanted to be low maintenance for Andy Albright. I don't know that I always have been. I'm sure there have been seasons where I've been higher maintenance, but one thing I wanted Andy to never have to wonder about is where's Katz. Katz is where he's supposed to be. He may not be doing what he's supposed to be doing, but he's at least showing up where he's supposed to show up. And so he didn't have to continually sell me on coming to conference or things like that. He knew we were going to be where we're supposed to be. And we made that. That was just one small decision Beth and I made, that we could at least show up and look at the ramifications of that over the last 20 years. And so, all right. So, what was life like while we were teaching? We were always tired. We were trying to grow our business. I didn't have the self-image to grow a business. I was afraid of failure. I had 2 people ask Beth out to the prom before I asked her out. I had my chemistry teacher ask her, and then I had my sister at the student government meeting later that evening make sure that the chemistry teacher got the answer correctly. So I got 2 yeses before I was willing to put my ego on the line to ask her to the prom. So that's kind of the self-image I was coming into a people business with. I was an introvert. I didn't like conversations. I was a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy, and I loved watching TV. And all of a sudden, I'm in a business that requires me to talk to people, requires me to face rejection all the time, and you talk about living outside your comfort zone. But what I had was this. I had a relationship with Andy that inspired me to not want to let him down. And I saw a future that Beth and I could live that was better than what we had as teachers. And so what did we have as teachers? Well, we had that townhouse that we had bought. We had bought it for $48,000. It was 800 square foot, backed up to a cemetery. If you're wondering, cemeteries don't add value to your house. And 10 years later, we were scrambling, we were trying. 10 years later, we were still in the townhouse, and it was still worth $48,000, property value and done. But we owed $72,000 on it with 3 mortgages. And I mean, you talk about on the verge of bankruptcy, on the verge of losing everything. We never traveled. We didn't go on trips. We were, timeshare presentations is what we would go on because they were cheap for a long weekend. And they were like $99 for the long weekend, and they gave you coupons, and it was that's what we could afford to do. And going to exotic places like Myrtle Beach, no offense, Dan, Virginia Beach, Pompano Beach. Those were the trips the Katzes were going on, and it was just not fun. It was stressful. It was discouraging. We were broke, but what I will tell you is this: we were not broke-minded. Andy taught us how to think future. He taught us how to think abundance and not stay in that broke-minded position, and that made all the difference. And so now what does life look like now for us? Beth, so that's the before. Beth, talk about the after. What life with the Alliance has done for us, and where we are today. And trust me, like I said at the beginning, we have not arrived. We haven't won. We're just one step in the journey. But it's night and day compared to where we were.
Yeah. So we have traded out that 800 square foot townhouse, and we now live in Wilmington, North Carolina, in my dream house. It's 5,000 square feet. It backs up to Howes Creek, which feeds into the intercoastal waterway. And there's a dock in our neighborhood, and we go out there and we can see down to Wrightsville Beach and see the hotel where we spent our wedding night in. And I think that's pretty cool. And it's kind of like those little God moments. So when I was looking for houses and going through all the listings and everything, you can set parameters. And so filters. And so I had set filters that was going to put our kids going to the school districts the high school that Adam and I went to. And this house fell through that filter. This house was not where I thought I wanted to live. But we walk in the house, fall in love with it. It works out. Turns out our kids don't need to go to the high school that we went to. They went to an early college program that didn't even exist when we were looking at it. They had a different path from their life. Again, what we visioned isn't where we needed to go. Or at least it's where we needed to go. It's not how we didn't get there the way we thought we were going to get there. So love living in the house there. Our kids have grown up in it. It has been great because we're back in the hometown, and we've got both sets of grandparents here, so they get to have those relationships. We get to travel 30 different countries, the number of trips that Adam and I have gone on. He was talking to his brother not long ago, and his brother's, who is a doctor, infertility specialist, very successful, who said, you know what? I've never taken a vacation more than 7 days. Like, he's never been away from his work for 7 days. Well, we just spent 10 days in Ireland, and we've spent 10 days in Cancun, and we've taken a lot of 10-day trips in the past 20 years. And so just that whole freedom that we can go. Adam can be in New Jersey, even though that's not what his background looks like right now. He can be in New Jersey, and I can be in Wilmington. We can still be running our business. Our daughter, Sarah, had our first grandchild, Michael, back in November. And they're out in Oklahoma City, which is a long way from Wilmington. And she kind of wanted to be near. And, of course, I wanted to be near, but not on top of, because Adam didn't like our parents being too close. And so we had the freedom, the flexibility that we did an Airbnb for 2 months in Oklahoma City. And so we were there. I was in the hospital room when Michael was born. I was there to help with everything in those first trying months of having a baby, and could still talk to agents. We could still we could still service our team. Adam could be there and then he could leave because airplanes fly out of Oklahoma City the same way they fly out of Wilmington. And so he could be in and out and live his life, do his job. And we were still being like in that moment of being new grandparents. And that's just an incredible blessing. You touched on Prague. Andrew came to us just the other day. He's like, hey, this opportunity to go to Prague for a month has popped up. I'm thinking about that. I want to do it. And so like when Adam gets home tonight, we got to sit down and look at all the details because I think this is something he's probably going to be doing. But it's like just that. Thank goodness he already had a passport. A lot of kids can't take advantage of a last minute opportunity because their parents have never taught them to travel and they've never experienced the getting on a plane and leaving the country. And Andrew's already done that by himself. I'm not worried about him going off on his own because he's had that experience. He knows that the world is bigger than the community we live in.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's just time and money. That's what freedom is. As a school teacher, we had all this time. Summers off, 10 days of Christmas, spring break. We had no money to go anywhere. Beth talked about my brother. He has all this money. He has no time to enjoy it. This business gives you that lifestyle that you want, but it's not free. It's not something for nothing. You got to work. There's no victory without sacrifice. And if you want dreams, if you have dreams, hopefully you have dreams. And you can identify those dreams clearly. And then you can put a plan together to work and go after those dreams. It's worth it. But it is work. And, I don't want anybody to think that this is some easy, this isn't, the leads are awesome. They're not some magic beans that you throw in the backyard and you have your beanstalk to the golden goose. You got to work it. You got to get into the grind. You got to be willing to do the things necessary to be successful. You got to be on the calls. You got to make your phone calls. You don't got to do anything. That's the reality of it. But if you want the rewards, you're going to have to do the work necessary to earn those rewards. I shudder to think what life would look like if we hadn't met Andy and Jane. It's scary. Wake up screaming in the middle of the night, or the nightmare of Andy gave up on me. What our lives would look like if Andy had ever given up on me. But he just chose not to. He didn't wait on me, to be clear. He went ahead and built his business. But he never gave up on us, and that's huge. And guys, where we're going, we're just starting. We're just starting. I send this message loud and clear to our team. You ain't seen nothing yet. Let's go. Let's rally. Let's get after it. But Alliance Nation, the Alliance is we are just now getting our footing. Andy has worked so hard over the last 20 years to put everything in place so that we can blow this thing up like crazy. There are no excuses. Everything perfect? There's never perfect. But is it better than it's ever been? And I've seen it the whole time. It is better than it's ever been. And you're seeing people grow and blowing up like crazy because they're working and they're following the system. And we got some folks who are doing some really good things as well. And they got some really cool stories in terms of where they came from and how they got to us here. So Dan Mirdo, if we can bring him up on the screen. Brother Hood, how are you doing today? So proud of Dan. He got a batch of leads, invested in himself and invested in a brand new agent he had just recruited, drove up, and spent 2 days training this agent in the field, showing Becca everything, and brought her to a hotspot meeting that I was doing in Baltimore the other night, and just getting out of his comfort zone, leaving his house and going out and serving somebody else, and that's the heart of a warrior. That's that mentality that Andy has instilled in all of us, and just so proud of what you're putting together. I know you're making your cash flowing like crazy this year. You've been over six figures the last couple years, and you've now qualified for 3 straight trips with us. And I think you're almost qualified for New Zealand already as well. So just crazy good things going on with Dan and his wife Deanna and their family and their business. But Dan, talk to us a little bit about where you were before pre-Alliance.
Yeah, well, Adam and Beth, thank you so much. Truthfully, it's been a blessing to get to know you guys, not only as leaders and business partners, but just as friends, and just the jokes, the inside, the stories we have together. It's one of the perks of this business is the family culture that the Alliance has. Again, with you, with Linda and Keith, and just everybody. So thank you for that. And yeah, so where we came from is we were in the service industry, mainly, grew up doing, being a server, bartending, running restaurants, things like that. And so we actually owned a restaurant for about 5 years, and ultimately that fell through. And when that happened, it was, what do we do now? We had an infant at the time. We had a mortgage payment. We had, all these bills and literally no income. And so we were desperate, and we went on, like everyone else, we went on Craigslist and Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and just applied to whoever would take a call from us, or whoever would basically, if they would pay me, I'd do it. And got a call from Adam, and had no idea what this industry was. And I'd also say this is, that was the first time I'd ever been on ZipRecruiter and Indeed, and so I'm the type of person that, again, having businesses, it just was all about timing, right? So the people that are running the ads on ZipRecruiter, and the people that feel like they're not getting the response that they want, or the quality that they want, obviously, thank you, Adam, for running that ad, or I never even would have found this. And so just, is that one ad, and I don't even know if you ran ads in Myrtle Beach all the time, or if it was just that month that you did, February of 2018. But that's how we got here. And again, had I not even clicked on it, had I just went right past it, who knows what life would be, right? And again, that's the thread of what gets us here. But yeah, it was, pre-Alliance. Life was go to work at the business, be depressed, go home, try to not think, hide from life, basically, right? Whether it was watching TV, playing video games, just, I think anyone that has had a business, especially if it was failing, the thing that you will try to do is just, you hide from it. Well, that's what I did. Maybe that's why it ultimately failed. But you don't like to think about it. You don't want to think about it. You start doing things financially that don't make sense. You try to get lucky instead of outwork it. And yeah, it was stressful. It was definitely, we were not living the life that we thought we were going to have when we started the business. And truthfully, I think the hardest part about it was we were completely by ourselves. There was no mentors. There was no guidance. There was no business partners. There was no $1 billion companies to back us. It was us. And so if it was payroll day and there wasn't enough money in the account, we had to figure something out, right? We had to sell something. We had to, pay the employees on Friday night after the banks closed, so they couldn't cash them. It was just, you had to figure it out. And I'm thankful for the experience because, obviously I think we grew up a ton. I think we learned a lot about life, a lot about business. Ultimately, would I do things differently? Yes, of course. But I'm also glad that I didn't, because I wouldn't be in this position I am today. So again, one of those, in the moment, you think of it as the worst time of your life, but it in retrospect, is probably the best time, the best thing that could have happened to us. So yeah.
That's awesome. Just how many Craigslist ads did you respond to?
I don't know.
Were you like answering every single one of them, or?
Well, so my main thing was having been in the restaurant business where you're working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. I wanted to spend time with the family. I had never had a 9 to 5. I thought that I wanted that, so I started looking at the bank jobs and corporate type jobs, and kept seeing insurance, and let's try that. And yeah, and I don't think anyone even called me back from insurance except for you guys. So
yeah, I mean it's just crazy. There's a tip there too. You run these ads, are you calling back the responders? You're getting these, you have your ZipRecruiter ad going, you get these resumes in. You might be sitting on the next Dan and Deanna Mirda. You might be sitting on the next, Terry and T. Edwards answer to Craigslist ad, that Jason Mathis had run in Atlanta. You just don't know who's going to be the next person you talk to. Emily called me last night and said, "Hey, can you call this new person? I think he has, I think this is the type of person we're looking for." And you just don't know which phone call is going to lead to the next thing, the next person that could be the one that changes your business, could be the one that changes your trajectory. Alrighty, so life wasn't looking great for you guys financially and all of that. What does life look like now for Dan and Deanna Mirdo?
There's I think like everyone else on here, there's still frustrations of where we're at. We're obviously looking to always keep growing, but it's not, oh, can we pay our mortgage today? It's, oh, why isn't this going as smoothly as we think it could? So it's definitely a mind shift. And as far as back then, without the experience, without the mindset, without the books that we're reading, these trainings, I think we handled every situation poorly, incorrectly, maybe is a better word. But now, loaded with the training that we're getting, obviously the events and just equipping our minds with the tools that we need, even when we're frustrated, even when something goes bad, it doesn't really even affect us. Meaning it doesn't ruin the week. It doesn't ruin the month. So yeah, it's comforting knowing that we have people that love us, people that care about us. We more so we love ourselves and we care about ourselves too. I think back then we didn't care about ourselves because I don't think we knew how to. I think there was no future. There was no end game. You got to a point where back then you were just living to survive the day. You were living for the weekend. You were living to not be at work. And I don't know if anyone can relate to that. But now it's the opposite. It's everyone talks about work-life balance, and I thought I wanted that. But our life is our work now. It got to the point where everything we do is based on the business. And to be honest, I love it. Like that's what I wanted, but I didn't know it. So yeah, life has become exciting. I love the traveling that we're doing. I love putting stuff on Facebook and people are like, where are you at now? I have a client that follows me and she calls like every 2 weeks for, she's one of those clients. And, every time I'm in a different city. Hey, I'm in Denver. Hey, I'm in DC. Hey, I'm in Dallas. I'm in Ireland. What are you doing? Just working. Working and making money. Right. So yeah.
We like to say we're just doing life in different locations because we're just doing life together, and and in between each stop, do your job is what it comes down to. So, you ever think about what it would be if you hadn't met us, if you hadn't met me and Beth, if you hadn't gotten connected to Andy and Jane Albright? Obviously you can't project exactly where you'd be, but.
Well, I think it would be the same as it was before, right? I think it would be the same bad habits, the same bad bad time management, the same mindset, right? I don't think we'd have the vision of where we want to go. I'll say it this way. We were leading ourselves and we shouldn't have been people that you should follow. But when we have actual leaders and we have, the end game and the journey becomes easier when you know where you're headed. And we had no idea where we were headed before. And so just following you guys, following, Andy and Jane and all the other leaders that have paved the way for us. It makes everything so much easier. I think the one advantage I had is I fell in love with you guys early, very early, where not once did I ever think, oh, they're trying to sabotage me or hurt me or, I never had those concerns. It was like, hey, go to this conference. All right, perfect. I'll be there. See you. Right. And were there times we had to, that financially we couldn't go? Sure. But we figured out a way to get there. Right. And so it's like, well, why? Well, doing that has led us to the position where we're at now, where Adam had mentioned earlier, 6-figure income, all these trips. It was that sacrifice in the beginning that led us to where we are now. I think if not doing any of those things would be right back, we would have quit, right? For sure. If we didn't fall in love with you guys and trust you, we would have quit after 90 days.
Yep, absolutely. So project out. You're still a young man, unlike me. What is your next 10, 20 years of Alliance business look like? Where is the Mirdo team, the Mirdo family, and the Mirdo team heading?
So this is what's exciting for us is just by doing basically what the system tells us to do, showing up, having a positive attitude, just doing the 8 steps. In the 5 years we've been here, we've maybe 8 to 10 times our income in 5 years. So thinking 5 more years, 10 more years, 15 years, no reason we can't just do it every 5 years, 10x our income. And it's just going to be finding good people, right? Taking the money we're making now and investing it in our people, investing it into finding good people, and just repeating the process. I think one thing I used to do before that frustrated me is I used to try to, I think this business is like learning a foreign language. And, it's silly for me to get frustrated to see how good Adam can speak a different language when he's been doing it for 20 years and I've been doing it for 2 months. And so I think I used to look at what you were doing now and try to copy that instead of what you did 20 years ago when you started this business. And so that's where my mindset is now is, hey, what was he doing 5 years in? What was Mike and Noel doing 5 years in? And, how did they have that jump? And really focusing on that and just going after it.
Absolutely. I would be remiss, Andy would get on me if I did not say 10xing your income should not take 5 years. Andy has this unbelievable sense of urgency. He has it on his watch. He has now and right now. And, he believes in us and what we can do with this business. Dan, we have just fallen so in love with you, Indiana, and appreciate you big time. This business is hard when you're in it by yourself, but when you have people who have your back, this business just becomes easier and easier, and you don't feel like you're working without a net when you got people who have linked arms with you, and we just appreciate you guys. And in terms of knowing somebody that has our back and somebody that has linked arms with us, Linda and her husband Keith, just become some of our very dearest friends. And here's the crazy part. So we hired Dan directly off an ad. Linda, Andy always talks about width and depth and develop a business and keep driving depth and keep building relationships and all of that. Linda was 9 deep from us. We hired a guy, all the way down, and you got a God thing to get into business with us also. She kind of found us, bumped into a friend in a parking lot. So that's a pretty cool story. But Linda, if you would kind of talk about how you found us here at the Alliance and what yours and Keith's life looked like, pre-Alliance, as you decided to get started in this industry.
Absolutely. And thanks, Beth and Adam, for you and Andy and Jane, of course, for all of this. So we met the Alliance about a year after our American dream crashed. So Keith and I were in our early 30s, and we had done college, and we got our master's degree. We were doing all this corporateness, and we decided that just didn't feel like enough. And so we wanted to own our own business. So we launched out into that, which was about the size of the plan. Let's just own something. So we went off into owning something, and we ended up thinking we really liked coffee. We should do a coffee shop. There's a really cool spot. Why not open one? So we did that. 6 months later, we opened a coffee shop wine bar thing in downtown Kansas. We're in Kansas City. And so we just kind of kept piling on businesses. So we had 3 of them running, functioning restaurant, coffee shop, full-on entities. And then we thought, well, we need a warehouse. We'll service them. We'll sell us our own stuff. We'll save money, make money. And we sold all over the U.S. Products that we sourced that we thought were kind of unique to us. So we did that all over the U.S. And then we did, we had a warehouse because you had to do that if you had a distribution center. And we had room in the warehouse. So we thought, well, let's open a logistics company and ship other people's stuff for them. So we piled all these businesses on in 5 years. The 5 years just before 2008 and 2009 happened, which from a timing standpoint, like Dan and you have both said, right, it looked bad, like a mistake, but that took us out. We lost everything in the crash. We were so extended that we had no breathing room. And I remember trying to save it. We put presentations together on our businesses. I mean, this is when if y'all are too young to know 2008, Google it. It was quite the time. But I remember I went to 12 different banks pitching why you should invest in us, give us operating capital to keep it going. And all of them. I mean, I even went out to middle of nowhere, Kansas, thinking, well, maybe the economy hasn't crashed out here and they won't notice. All to no avail. We lost them all. At one time we were doing over $3.5 million in revenue between all the businesses annually. We had 150 employees, servers, things like that, and managers and executive chefs and the whole 9 yards. And then when it tumbled, we lost everything. We lost all of our businesses because when you're new in business, you collateralize with your personal stuff, right? We dumped our 401ks, which at the time were like $600,000. We poured them into it. Our bank notes were called. Our house was called. And we literally found ourselves without a place to live and without a business. And at the time, my husband had just quit. He was a full-time IT guy, and he had just quit because right before the economy crashed, he took a severance. And so we thought a guy who people sought him out for jobs found himself, he was jobless too at the time. So we lost everything. And then a year later, so Keith gets a job back. We have just devastated our finances, and I'm in a Target parking lot, and a girlfriend of mine, she was a stay-at-home mom going to go back to work, and she had bumped into this thing with her friend of hers is making a ton of money in this insurance deal, and there's this meeting on Tuesday she's going to go to. She wasn't inviting me, she was just telling me about it. And she goes, so she's got really excited, she's going to make 15 grand a month and check it out, and this guy's coming in from Ohio, and I'm like, man, that sounds sketchy. I think let me check it out, because I am a savvy business person, and so let me protect you, my dear friend. And so she gave me the name is all. She said, Andy something like Alliance. I don't know at all. So I Googled it, and I called her up 4 hours later and said, where's that meeting? I'm going to do that thing. And that's how I met the Alliance. So she never really did it. She got her license and then went away. And then here I am. Here we are, Keith and I.
Here we are. We stayed through it all. Which is what you're looking for. You're looking for people who will honor their word, honor their commitment. You're looking for people who will stay in the fight with you. You're looking for people who, honor the relationships. And that's something that I know Beth and I are so appreciative of the relationship that we've developed with you and Keith, and traveling the world and all of that. So that's where you were. Talk to us about where you are today. We have traveled the world together. How many different trips have we gone on? Around the world, and just having fun, living life, doing life together.
Yeah. I part of our origin story, if you will, is we had a, like Adam is saying, we had a group right between us, 9 people, and that when that kind of went away, Adam and Beth I didn't really know Adam at that time. I had just known of you. I'd seen you, up on stage because I was pretty far deep. And I remember calling you saying, can I work with you? And or I emailed you. I'm sorry. I said, can I still work with you? And you didn't email me back. I'll never forget this. You got on a plane, and 2 days later you were in Kansas City, and we were having pancakes. And I was like, okay, I like this guy. We can do pancakes. So, and him and Beth, you and Beth have been, Keith and I were just reminiscing actually this morning about, how our first couple meetings with you were just that. We were getting to know each other and then even at our first couple conferences or trips rather after that, like we were just getting to know each other. And now we plan our trips, right? When we're going out, like, hey, what are we going to do? We're going to go in early. When we're going to see, and we have literally developed just the closest friendship with you and Beth. And it's a real thing. And so what I love about the environment of the Alliance is we kind of collect similar like-minded people, and then over the years of grinding together and working together, you develop true dear friendships. And so we've been, when I first saw you, one of the first times you were talking about trips, and I'm like, man, I didn't even think about trips in your life from the company. Like Keith and I tried to eke some out in our young years, Hawaii here and Colorado there. But like the stuff you guys were doing, I'm like, I'm in. I want to do that. And now it's literally, y'all, it's just that. It's a decision. Just decide. You want to be in New Zealand, just decide. And then go make it happen. And don't just decide and then, cross your fingers. Go make it, because you can. Anybody, if you've not sold a penny yet today, you can start today and make New Zealand. And it will be so worth it. And that's going to be the coolest trip ever. And the trips we've done have been amazing. So we've been all over. Paris, we went, I feel, in a dangerous bear country in Canada. You and Beth and Keith maybe didn't, but it felt like it to me. We open a gate that says "Careful, bears on the." We watched bears when we're going up the mountain, like we were on a ski lift. Do you remember this? We're going up a mountain, and we're riding together. And there's 2 grizzly bears right below us, way down in the valley. And we get off, and then these 3 are like, "Let's go hiking." And I'm like, "This." And then just to make sure, you have to actually open a gate that says, "Beyond this point, basically, you're fair game." And so we did that, and we anyway. So we've done some fun things. We obviously made it out alive, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, right. So Ireland, and then getting to know just Adam, the team impact, Dan and Deanna, and just the friendships we've developed with that. And our team just bring it. I'm so excited for New Zealand because we're going to have a bunch of our, people that are with us. And so I'm looking forward to just playing together all over the world. So.
Yeah, the trips are so much better when you have your team with you. Yeah. And I do remember, those first couple trips, we weren't totally connected, and you and Keith kind of did your own thing, and we'd see you at the events, but and now it's just like the whole team is 24. We're moving as a ball, as a bunch. We love being together. We love having these common experiences with each other, and that's just really cool how we live life now. So Linda, you got some great momentum. Your unique riders is up. Your issue paid legs are up. Your volume, you're averaging 100,000 a month in team production now. And you had the highest number of people at a conference in Denver that your team's ever had. So, all the trajectories are in the right direction. So what does the next 10 years look like with the Alliance for you and Keith and your business?
I love the Alliance, the system, the multiplication of it, right? So it's the whole penny a day doubled, right? So I feel like right now, it's not just, we got to 100 and now maybe in a year we can, be at 200. It will exponentially explode, and I'm so excited for that. More for the team, right? So I'm so excited to watch people start winning in a big way that are directly connected with us, and so it's that's exciting. I feel like we can help people get to 100, within a year. Each one. That's kind of my target is how do we help people get to their team to 100 within a year, and so And there's the multiplier, right? If you help 10 do that, what does it look like? So I think we're poised. We got some wonderful people. Our team is just, your team, the team impact is the Alliance. It's just got some really wonderful hearts, wonderful people, and just looking forward to succeeding together. Making it happen.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we call ourselves Team Impact. Linda alluded to that. We are improving more people's actions, convictions, and treasures. That's what we have. And we're so honored to be part of the Alliance umbrella. Honored to be coached and mentored by Andy and Jane Albright, and our crossline leaders that we take so much knowledge from. And we enjoy just being teammates with, and this has just been the craziest thing. And like I said, guys, Beth and I, we planted our flag a long time ago. We hitched our wagon to Andy's train, and we haven't regretted it 1 minute. There might have been a minute, but it's just unbelievable what our lives are because of his vision, his hope, his faith, and his loyalty to us, and his conviction that anybody can be successful if they're just willing to buy in, plug in, and go to work. And we're just 3 examples. We didn't come into this thing with a huge advantage. We didn't have the financial backing. All of us kind of came into this behind the 8 ball financially, but we just plugged in and we plugged along. And we chugged along, and it's just the beginning. The future's wide open, guys. Don't forget, Miami, July 14th through the 17th, Miami, Florida. We're going to have our family reunion, and you have till May 31st, the end of midnight, May 31st, to get your tickets at the discounted rate before the price goes up. So go ahead and make that quality decision, lock it in, and again, you can get hotel information and the agenda and the time frames and everything at theallianceevents.com. But guys, we appreciate it so much. Thank you, Andy and Jane Albright. Thank you, Tia and Billy and everybody at corporate headquarters in Burlington for allowing us to do this conference call. We're always so honored to be asked to to be trusted with Andy's organization. We don't take that lightly. So guys, let's go out there, have a great Friday. Let's win the day, let's win tomorrow, and let's just keep winning as a team. Love you guys. Take care.